Home brewing for the holidays with the Rolling Green Project. While we've been at Turning Beyond Ranch, one of the things we've been harvesting is the fresh fruits from the apple, cherry, and plum trees. When staring at a large batch of apples, we decided to try our hands at fermentation and making homemade hard cider and wines with the organic juices we were creating. This sent me into a whole new world of research to find out just what it takes to create a fine brew at home. And I must add a disclaimer here. This is intended for people of legal drinking age and not to be used otherwise. Now, with that said, I have found it can be as simple as grabbing a couple of ingredients from the grocery store to being a major chemistry project. It really depends on the quality of taste and type of fermentation you want to achieve. The avid winemaker would cringe at the simple closet brew I challenged and tested, and it almost defies the time and care put into a fine wine. With any brewing project, there are four main factors to keep in check for the best possible outcome. First and foremost is sterilization. A lot of things can taint your fermentation, so you want to be sure that the bottles are scalded and your utensils are sanitized. Second is the type of yeast you use. There are many selections of brewing yeast to help you achieve a desired type of wine, or, for the impatient home brewer, Fledgman's rapid-acting yeast from most any grocery store proved to do a fine job. The bread yeast is not recommended by the brewing connoisseur, as it affects the flavor to create a lower quality wine, but it takes your brew about 7 days instead of 2 to 4 weeks, and with some aeration and proper decanting, it turned out to be a perfectly drinkable concoction. And last but hardly least, your juice must be free of preservatives or it will not ferment. During this research, I found a blog with a simple home recipe called How to Make Drinkable Wine in Just 1 Week. After reading all the technical winemaking and possible issues, I almost couldn't believe that it could be that simple, but it was. I had to test this out for myself, so we bought a gallon of True Value white grape with peach juice for our base. I chose the no sugar added for a drier, lower carb wine and made sure it was 100% real juice with no preservatives to stop fermentation. The citric acid is okay. I also chose the rapid acting yeast in hopes it would really be ready in a week. I sterilized an old gallon wine jug, poured in about 3/4 of the gallon of juice, and added 1 packet of the yeast. The total cost of the ingredients was under $7, with 2 yeast packets to spare in case it worked really well. After adding the yeast, I capped it tightly, shook it well, then unscrewed the cap just enough to let the pressure that will be building during fermentation escape to avoid an exploded mess in the closet. Keeping your wine in a dark place with no sunlight is the last key to making sure your brew turns out tasty. The fermentation began almost instantly, creating the little bubbles as the yeast ate the sugars. We checked on it every couple of days, and exactly 7 days later, the fermentation process had stopped, the silt had settled, and we were ready for a taste test. With the organic juices, we used brewing yeast and took a little bit longer. I will say it really does make the difference in flavor between a cheap wine and a fine brew. I would definitely recommend the organic juice and brewing yeast, but if you'd like to make your own fast hard apple cider for the holidays, grab a gallon of juice at the store, drop in the rapid acting yeast, and test it out in about a week. Rebottle it and let it sit in a dark, cool place or the fridge until you're ready to introduce your fine creation at your holiday parties. Don't be afraid to add some spices in before brewing either. They taste wonderful in the finished cider. So do a little research of your own and always drink responsibly. This is Samantha Phenix using organic juices for holiday home brewing with the Rolling Green Project for In New Light Video Magazine. Keep up to date with the Rolling Green Project's happenings at www.rollinggreenproject.org.